Imagine this. You're coming home after a long day. Suddenly, you find your locks changed. Your belongings are outside. You can't get in. This is the harsh reality of an illegal eviction, and it's happening more often in the UK. The law is clear. Landlords cannot force tenants out of their homes without following strict legal procedures. Yet, too many tenants face intimidation, threats, and unlawful removal from their homes. This isn't just about housing, it's about basic human dignity. Everyone deserves a safe and secure place to live. Sadly, the current housing crisis, coupled with complex eviction laws, creates a breeding ground for rogue landlords to exploit vulnerable tenants. The good news, the tide is turning. The Renters' Rights Bill, alongside growing awareness and activism, aims to empower tenants and hold irresponsible landlords accountable. This essay will guide you through the complexities of illegal evictions in the UK. We'll explore what makes an eviction illegal, the legal steps landlords must follow, and the landmark changes brought about by the Renters' Rights Bill. Let's shed light on this critical issue and empower both landlords and tenants to navigate the rental landscape fairly and lawfully. In the UK, a landlord cannot simply decide to remove a tenant because they want the property back, or because they've found someone else willing to pay higher rent. An eviction is deemed illegal if the landlord fails to adhere to the legal eviction process, putting tenants at risk of homelessness and immense stress. Here are some clear examples of actions that constitute illegal eviction: forced entry, changing locks, removing doors, or using force to enter the property without a court order is strictly prohibited. Harassment and intimidation threats, verbal abuse, or the deliberate disruption of utilities, gas, electricity, water to make the property uninhabitable are illegal. Illegal eviction notices. Serving incorrect or fabricated eviction notices or failing to provide adequate notice periods is unlawful. It's important to remember that even if a tenancy agreement has expired, a landlord cannot evict a tenant without a court order obtained through the correct legal channels. The legal framework for evictions in the UK is designed to protect both landlords and tenants. Landlords have the right to regain possession of their property, but only through a clearly defined and legally sound process. Before starting the eviction process, landlords should attempt to resolve the issue through open communication with the tenant. This might involve negotiating a rent repayment plan or addressing any breaches of the tenancy agreement. If these attempts fail, landlords must follow these legal steps. 1. Valid grounds for eviction. Landlords need a legally valid reason to evict tenants. This could include significant rent arrears, property damage, antisocial behaviour, or breaches of the tenancy agreement. 2. Serving a valid notice. Depending on the grounds for eviction, landlords must serve either a Section 8 notice, fault-based, or prior to the Renters' Rights Bill, a Section 21 notice, no fault 3, court proceedings. If the tenant doesn't leave after receiving a valid notice, landlords must apply to the court for a possession order. 4. Possession order and warrant of eviction. If the court grants the possession order and the tenant still refuses to leave, the landlord can apply for a warrant of eviction. This authorizes bailiffs to evict the tenant. It's crucial for landlords to understand that attempting to circumvent this process by using illegal methods can have serious legal consequences, including fines, imprisonment, and damage to their reputation. The Renters' Rights Bill represents a significant shift in the balance of power between landlords and tenants in England. Aiming to provide greater security for tenants and create a fairer rental market, the bill introduces substantial changes to the eviction process. 1. End of no-fault evictions. The most significant change is the abolition of Section 21 evictions. This means landlords can no longer evict tenants without providing a specific reason, ending the practice of no-fault evictions. 2. 12-month protected period. New tenants will now benefit from a 12-month protected period at the start of their tenancy. During this time, landlords cannot evict them for personal reasons such as selling the property or moving in themselves. 3. 4 months notice, post-protected period. After the initial 12 months, landlords will need to provide at least 4 months notice for eviction. 4. Periodic tenancies. Tenancies will automatically transition to rolling periodic agreements with no fixed end date, providing tenants with greater flexibility. These changes are designed to provide tenants with greater security and make it more difficult for landlords to evict tenants unjustly. However, the bill's impact on the private rental sector remains a subject of debate. Section 5. Landlords facing justice. Real cases, real consequences. The consequences for landlords who engage in illegal evictions are becoming increasingly severe. Courts are taking a tougher stance, recognizing the severe impact that unlawful evictions have on individuals and families. Let's look at some recent cases that highlight this trend. Case 1. In 2024, a landlord in London was sentenced to 12 months in prison for illegally evicting a family with young children. The landlord had changed the locks while the family was away for the day, leaving them stranded without access to their belongings or essential medication. Case 2. A landlord in Manchester was fined £10,000 and ordered to pay substantial compensation to a tenant after being found guilty of harassment. The landlord had repeatedly entered the tenant's flat without permission, cut off the electricity and threatened him with violence. These cases, while just a snapshot, demonstrate that the legal system is taking illegal evictions seriously. The courts are sending a clear message that landlords who disregard the law and violate their tenants' rights will face serious repercussions. While the Renters' Rights Bill represents a positive step, the effectiveness of any legislation depends on its enforcement. Challenges remain in ensuring that the law translates into tangible improvements for tenants facing illegal eviction. One significant challenge is the lack of resources faced by local authorities responsible for investigating and prosecuting illegal evictions. Understaffed and underfunded, local councils often struggle to keep up with the volume of complaints, leaving many tenants feeling unheard and unprotected. Another issue is the outdated legislation governing tenant-landlord relations. The Protection from Eviction Act 1977, enacted long before the current housing crisis, is widely seen as inadequate for addressing the complexities of modern renting. To strengthen enforcement and better protect tenants, experts propose several amendments to existing laws. First, a unified harassment test. A clearer, more comprehensive definition of harassment would make it easier to prosecute landlords who create hostile living conditions for their tenants. Second, internet access as harassment. In today's digital age, deliberately cutting off a tenant's internet access should be explicitly recognized as a form of harassment. Third, broader tenant protections. The burden of proof should be shifted onto landlords to demonstrate that a resident is not protected under the law, making it harder to exploit vulnerable individuals. Strengthening these laws is essential, but equally important is ensuring adequate funding for local authorities to investigate and prosecute illegal evictions effectively. Facing the prospect of eviction can be overwhelming and emotionally draining. It's crucial for tenants to understand their rights and take proactive steps to protect themselves. First, stay calm and seek advice. If you receive an eviction notice, don't panic. Contact a reputable housing advice service like Shelter or Citizens Advice for guidance. They can help you understand your rights and the eviction process. Second, check the notice carefully. Ensure the notice is valid and served correctly. If there are any errors or if it's based on false grounds, you may be able to challenge it. Third, keep records. Maintain detailed records of communication with your landlord, rent payments, and any issues with the property. This documentation can be crucial if you need to present your case in court. Fourth, negotiate with your landlord. If possible, try to negotiate a payment plan or address any concerns your landlord has raised. Open communication can sometimes prevent the situation from escalating. Lastly, seek legal representation. If you believe you're facing an illegal eviction or need help navigating the court process, seek legal advice from a qualified solicitor specializing in housing law. Remember, you are not alone. There are organizations and resources available to support you during this challenging time. The UK rental market is at a crossroads. The Renters' Rights Bill represents a significant step towards a fairer system, but the journey is far from over. Balancing the rights and needs of both landlords and tenants is crucial for a healthy and sustainable rental sector. For tenants, the focus must remain on securing greater security of tenure, tackling unreasonable rent increases, and improving the overall quality of rental accommodation. The government's commitment to building more affordable housing is also essential to alleviate the pressure on the private rental sector. Landlords, too, deserve a fair deal. Clearer regulations, streamlined legal processes, and support in tackling rent arrears can encourage responsible landlords to provide quality housing. Ultimately, a collaborative approach involving policymakers, landlords, tenants, and housing organizations is needed to create a rental market that is fair, affordable, and works for everyone. The issue of illegal evictions in the UK is complex and multifaceted. While legislation like the Renters' Rights Bill offers hope, the fight for fair and secure housing continues. It requires ongoing vigilance, awareness, and a commitment to upholding the rights of all those who call the UK home. By working together, we can create a rental market where tenants feel secure in their homes and landlords can confidently provide quality housing. Let's strive for a future where everyone has access to safe, affordable housing and where the trauma of illegal eviction becomes a relic of the past.